As of Saturday, November 1st, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP, has lost federal funding. The reason? Well, Donald is presiding over a government shutdown that he and the fascist Republican Party could easily end at any time, but instead, he and they choose to do nothing while blaming everything on Democrats, despite the fact that Republicans are in charge of everything. Roughly 42 million Americans receive SNAP benefits. 39% of SNAP beneficiaries are children. On Friday, two federal judges ordered the Trump regime to use emergency allocations to fund the program. By the way, there are $5 billion in emergency funds that the Trump regime could have tapped into, but chose not to. Axios, however, reports that the Department of Agriculture would comply with the rulings and partially fund SNAP using contingency money, but Agency Secretary Brooke Rollins, the one who thinks that we should all be raising chickens in our backyards because eggs are so fucking expensive, added that because rolling out benefits varies from state to state, it could take anywhere from a few weeks to up to several months to restore these decreased benefits because who needs to eat? Really? So, thanks to Donald's ineptitude, cruelty, and mismanagement of government bureaucracy and, the aforementioned fascist Republican Party, Americans and a lot of American children are still at risk of going hungry. I want to take a moment to explore the immediate and long term consequences of the stoppage, some of which is certainly flying under the radar. Earlier this week, a segment on MSNBC featured SNAP recipients who are bracing themselves for the loss of this essential service. Watch here.
I'm only down to one pack of chicken, and I don't even know what I'm going to do for the next month. My son won't have his milk, and we won't have food. I'll go without eating it or anything as long as my kids eat.
SNAP isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Everything comes from my SNAP benefits. I haven't even gotten to the 1st of November, and I'm already shaking in my boots.
It's important to point out here that even Americans who are fully employed rely on SNAP benefits in order to make ends meet. If you only watched Fox, however, you would think that the end of SNAP benefits is a great thing because it's helping out the stock prices of Hamburger Helper. A supplement that people use to help stretch their portions of ground beef. If things keep going the way they're going, Fox might even have us celebrating the fact that people need to start eating cat food. Even some Republican leaders in Congress are concerned, probably not for their constituents, but for their future to get reelected if they allow their constituents to go hungry. Senator Josh Hawley, for example, introduced a bill last week to guarantee continued food assistance funding during the shutdown. But because Donald doesn't care who he hurts and is clueless as to the greater economic impact of his actions, he's not going to do anything. Oklahoma jobs consultant Sammy Jones broke down why cutting SNAP hurts all of us. That's right. Even if you are not a SNAP beneficiary, ending this program is going to cause you problems down the road. Check this out.
If you are naive enough to think that the pause to SNAP benefits on November 1st isn't going to affect you because you don't receive food stamps, I want you to hear this. About 1 in 8 Americans receive SNAP benefits. In fact, in Oklahoma, where I live, that's 1 in 6 people. So about 600,000 people in my state alone, Oklahoma, receive SNAP benefits. About 1 in 4 children in the U.S. receive SNAP benefits. But you're not one of those people, so you don't care. But hang with me. When those benefits go away, just about $9 billion in grocery spending vanishes. So you've got to be thinking about not just the grocery stores being able to stay open and pay their employees, but you have to think about the entire supply chain, trucks on the road, people who provide food to these grocery stores. $9 billion. Every dollar spent in SNAP benefits adds about $1.50 to $1.80 to the economy. So cutting those benefits isn't saving that dollar, it's taking away that $1.50 to your local economy. But you don't receive SNAP benefits, you don't work for a grocery store, you don't drive a truck, you don't give a shit. But when all of those things happen, the only way to combat that is to drastically increase the price of groceries. Grocery prices are already up over 3% in 2025 alone, which is almost an entire percentage higher than the average increase in grocery prices over the last 20 years. I thought they were supposed to go down day one, though. So even if SNAP benefits only pause for 1 month, which, by the way, would be detrimental to all the people I mentioned before that you don't give a shit about, it will cost the economy roughly $13 to $14 billion in profit. And you can expect your grocery prices in just that 1 month to go up at least 1%. And states will stand to lose about $300 to $500 million in sales tax revenue. So even if you do not receive SNAP benefits, you never have, you never will, you do not want these to be paused on November 1st.
Now let's look at the wide-ranging damage shutting down SNAP will cause over time. In a recent piece, Time magazine spoke to multiple food policy experts, and their findings were deeply disturbing. Without benefits, many Americans may be forced to skip meals entirely. Many SNAP recipients already face low wages or caregiving duties. Losing benefits could deepen the strain they're already under, leading to an inability to care properly for ailing family members. Small grocery stores, which rely heavily on SNAP purchases, are expected to be hit the hardest as they stand to lose considerable revenue. Please, never again let a Republican lie to your face and tell you that they care about small businesses. Food banks are already operating at capacity due to those heightened grocery store prices caused by Donald's tariffs, among other things. Now they warn they will not be able to keep up with even greater demand. Private American citizens are being asked to give more and more of their hard-earned dollars in order to make up for shortfalls being caused by the Trump regime. This is unsustainable. Unsustainable. So please, yes, if you can, donate to local shelters. You can donate money, you can donate canned goods and other kinds of staples. But never forget that this shouldn't be necessary, and this is intentional. But before we go on, we must continue to speak out against this regime's cruelty. So please like and share this video. And if you believe in our mission, please subscribe to the Mary Trump Media channel. With a president who doesn't think twice about starving his own people, states are finding ways to help residents in ways the federal government won't. The Associated Press reports that states like Louisiana, New Mexico, and Vermont have announced emergency measures to temporarily replace or extend aid. Louisiana lawmakers approved $150 million to protect children, seniors, and people with disabilities. Some able-bodied adults, however, are being excluded, even though they too will not be able to eat. In New Mexico, where 21% of residents rely on SNAP, 21% of residents of one state rely on SNAP benefits. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham announced $30 million in emergency food assistance, but keep in mind, this only covers about 30% of typical monthly benefits for approximately 10 days. Vermont authorized $6.3 million to fund 15 days of SNAP and an additional $250,000 for food banks. Other states from New York to Nevada are launching similar stopgap plans, but the overarching issue remains. Tens of millions of Americans, including our children, are at risk of going hungry because we have in the Oval Office a heartless, soulless failure of a man whose corruption and greed know no bounds. And of course, thanks to 78 million Americans who either through ignorance or their own cruelty or some combination of those things thought that putting such a person in charge of the future of this country was a good idea. Please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.